Welcome, everybody, to Stay Curious. I'm your host, Mark Marquez. So glad you joined me here at the American Space Museum, where we broadcast live every day, 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday. And heck, we've done this over 1,400 times. So let's rack it up and get into some space news and views today. And we're glad that you've joined the conversation. Today we got Matthew Raj on our Streamlabs computer. Marty's taking the day off, and we may have a special interview with a British gentleman tomorrow that I recorded a couple months ago, and hopefully we can do that for you tomorrow. You're going to want to watch this. Francois is quite an influencer in the UK, and we could get like a 60 minutes type exposure with what he did a couple months ago. So that's what we're going to try to effort tomorrow. And Friday, I've got Julia Barney from the Astronaut Memorial Foundation to come here and talk about their observance of the fallen heroes of Apollo 1, Challenger, and Columbia as we're approaching here in the middle of January, NASA's darkest week at the end of the month. And we always take the high road and celebrate the lives of these beautiful Earthlings that escape the bonds of Earth and live on in our hearts today. So we're going to sponsor today by Hyatt Place, which is on the 405 and Route 1 here in Titusville, the entrance to Kennedy Space Center. We're grateful that they have supported our Shuttle Fest 4 times and now our memorabilia shows. It's our home away from home. Hotel rates there are probably 25% less than Cocoa Beach. That's just 30 miles down the road. So you can see you're right on the road that goes into Orlando when you're at Hyatt Place. So very affordable, $180, $200 range most of the time. So, and we hope that you solicit them. And they have their USIAC launch viewing room on their 5th floor. And this is the view that Mark USIAC took. And they dedicated the room to the USIAC brothers, Tom and Mark. Hope you're watching, Tommy, as we're I was looking for us live on here on our YouTube channel. Didn't pop up the way it does, but Tom Usiak's watching, I'm sure. And yesterday we had Kevin Hostresser on here talking about the F1 engine, things that you didn't know about the F1 engine, and he's a very popular guy, a real rocket scientist. And glad that Kevin Hostresser was here. We've got 2 of his 3D models in the museum, the F1 and the shuttle SSME. This is the view from Hyatt Place on their 5th floor UCAC gallery. The brothers have a lot of their artwork throughout the museum, the hotel. And this is what it would have looked like at about 1:08 today when I was just finishing up a Titusville Chamber of Commerce meeting. And we had a rocket launch go off, another launch of the Starlink satellites. But this is the view you get when you stay there for a launch. And good place to talk about the Artemis fever that's going on is, whoa, what have I got behind me here? Some psychedelic artwork? No, this is Jupiter. It's going to poke your eye out tonight when I tell you where it's at. It's so bright in the east. But I asked Raj to put up this. It's just a beautiful Jupiter's hydrogen and helium and methane and nitrogen atmosphere there, just like an oil with colors in it, moving constantly. So we'll talk about that to end the program. You know, I'm going to do a little stargazing here on Stay Curious every chance I get. So good opportunities. We're talking about the launch today. Artemis fever has hit the Space Coast, definitely. The rollout is Saturday at some like 4 in the morning. Marty Winkle, my co-producer, will be there. Marty's, and so because he's there, I'll let him get up early and check out the rollout. It takes about 8 hours to go from the VAB to Pad 39B, the Artemis launch site, where 3 years ago in November, December, January. 3 years and 2 months ago was the Artemis 1 launch. Not much of a cadence for sure, like the Apollo astronauts had 2 a year, but going to the moon. But nonetheless, 4 American astronauts will get ready to make a big loop around the moon and test out the environmental control systems on the Orion. That's what they're billing is the main thing they're doing. And I just question whether we needed 4 humans in there to test it before we tested it with some mannequins with some, sensors on them. But of course, they have confidence in it or they wouldn't do it. Launch time probably will not be February 6th, the open window. No, that would give them just 2 weeks out there to set stuff up, 3 weeks really. And so they've not announced the launch date, but they're going to wait till they probably get out there and things plugged in. The great big Space Launch System rocket that is just a part of the shuttle. The solid rocket boosters are shuttle solid rocket boosters, 5 segments instead of 4, and they stretch the external tank for the 4 SSME engines at the base aft section of the SLS. So, but it's good. We're getting launch fever here. People are wanting to get in the hotels, asking questions about what's going on, and hope they'd shoot it off during the middle of the day. There is a chart out that I need to put on Facebook that gives the launch opportunities coming up here in the next 3 months. So, Artemis 2 fever, catch it here on the Space Coast. Hope that you can also catch our ceremony that we're going to broadcast live on YouTube, as Jan Davis, astronaut of 3 missions, will be the keynote speaker to talk about the Apollo 1 Challenger and Columbia astronauts in a very patriotic and reverent ceremony on Sunday, January 25th at Sandpoint Park. That's just north of our Spaceview Park here in downtown Titusville. We're open on Sundays now, okay? We are more than just a business. We are a tourist business. And why we've not been open Sundays, I've never understood that. But we're going to be open 7 days a week. We know it'll be a slow chug to get people awareness that we are open on Sundays, but we're definitely going to be open 7 days a week. If we could close on Mondays occasionally, but the business office would stay open. So tell your friends, 7 days a week now at the American Space Museum, 10 to 5. FYI, we're $10 for adults, $8 for seniors, and military, $5 for kids 12 and under. So teenagers 13 to 17, we charge $5. And that is some super low prices compared to some of the prices that people get for their attractions. And I'm not talking just Orlando. I'm talking about some of the other venues here in our museums of Brevard, 22 great museums of Brevard. So we are a nonprofit. We might have to raise that rate. We've talked about it. But right now it's $10 admission and $8 for seniors and military. So we can't beat that, huh? And what we have here, you're not going to believe. Truly. Space Memorabilia Show, and it is the month of Jan Davis, as she's going to sign her books. She got 2 books about she and her Air Force father. She was in the Air Force. February 7th is our memorabilia show at Hyatt Place, and we'll have plenty of time to talk more about that. Pretty much filled up on vendors, but if you want to get out of the cold weather, come down the week before Valentine's on a affordable airplane or drive here and buy some memorabilia. We have the perfect match for you. Right, Raj?
Yeah.
Yeah. You can still get tickets to a special screening of the Apollo 1 documentary. Okay, this is quite a featured presentation. I know some of the people involved in it. The film director de Havilland has a part in this, and this is at the Astronaut Memorial Foundation's Education Center at the KSC property, and just go to the Astronaut Memorial Foundation or the Apollo 1 documentary, and it'll get you there. And I'll certainly be there. That's a week from tomorrow night. And here is the crew patch for Crew 11. Mike Fink, Zena Cardman, you, and the Russian on board there. That they right now are inside the capsule live. You can go to nasa.live. I just pulled this picture off of there. They're all showing nice hearts. This is on the video presentation before they got into the Crew Dragon that they're in now. And they will, within the next hour, undock, spend half the day orbiting the Earth to get to the right orbital vectors and so forth. About 5:05 is when they're supposed to undock, and landing is going to be tomorrow morning, 3:40 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So California time, that's 3 hours. That's going to be right after midnight in California. They're landing off the coast of California, not Florida. They started that the last Crew 10 because California is where they refurbish, where the main factory for SpaceX is in Hawthorne, where they do all of the work on it there. So, and I've got another picture. Yeah, I got a picture of the crew here. God bless them. Okay, there's Zena Cardman, Michael Fink, Kamya Yu, and Oleg. Okay, up there. And they ended being up there 1 month short of their time that they wanted to be up there. I didn't pull that off. Let me see if I can get that real quickly here. Approximately how much up there. We got 10 humans orbiting the Earth right now, soon to be 6. 3 on the International Space Station and 3 on the Chinese Space Station. They were up, let's see, 160 days. They've been up there about 175 days, something like that. Okay. Launched on August 1st, 2025. So there you go. August 1st added up there, and that's about 170 some days in space for them. Fink and you, this is their second flight, or this actually Fink's fourth and Kamya's second. Don't know what's wrong with anybody. Probably will never know why the conjecture or anything. They looked happy in a crew transfer yesterday. The commander, Fink, gave the command to the other Russian one of the other Russians on the space station, and that being Sergei. Here's the three that'll be left on the space station, by the way. Astronaut Chris Williams and 2 Russians up there. Okay, so if they wanted to, they could take it over. All right, overpower him and take over the space station. And we've seen that in some novels over there, but that's not going to happen. These people love each other. They're Earthlings orbiting the Earth, a planet that's one of billions out there in the universe. So, and their lives depend on each other so much. So, good luck. I'll get up, set my alarm. I want to watch the splashdown that is scheduled to happen at 3:40 a.m. Thank you, Steve Jokums, for getting us some of the information here, as he keeps me straight on so much information there. I love it. Okay, shuttles of the month of January. 10 beautiful shuttles. All 5 orbiters were launched. Of course, Challenger was not a successful launch, okay? And I was looking up at STS-72. STS-72 was launched January 11th. There it is, in the upper left-hand corner. That's Winston Scott, our dear friend. And Winston played jazz last night, Raj, at the Italian American Club. He plays his trumpet on the second Tuesday of the month. And I've been going to that now for a better part of a year. One of the regulars down there. And Winston, afterwards, I'm talking to him a little bit about some business stuff. And he said, Mark, 30 years ago today, I was orbiting the Earth in space. I can't believe it. I was doing my spacewalk 30 years ago today. And here I am playing trumpet, And he goes, I'm getting old, and I said, yep, Winston, 30 years, man. He probably been 45. I think he's 75 back then. And Winston does a lot for the museum, always has, and he's become a good business friend of mine. His wife Marilyn, we all know each other pretty well, and just fun to be out in on these events like this. So Winston, we're thinking of you, and we shared your mission at the beginning of the month there, where he did a spacewalk with Dow, I think it was, and Duffy, his commander, is the astronaut of the day this week out at the Space Center. So they got together last, he said Monday night. Winston Scott, of course, is the director of the astronaut encounter, let's say. He books all the astronauts out there that I say is one of the best things that they do out there at Delaware North is have an astronaut every day that gives a public talk twice and offers twice an autograph session. And they probably autograph in the 5 days they're there. They autograph, I figured at least 400 to 500 different things. So anyway, we talked about yesterday, the day before, two shuttles, STS-61C and 81, launched on January 12th. Today, on January 13th, yesterday, was launched a crew that really digs Star Trek. Okay, there's your crew that Runco is the astronaut giving you the Vulcan sign there. Casper's the commander sitting down there. You've got McLaughlin, and where are my cheat sheet and my shuttles of the month there? I can't read all those guys. I should have pulled that off there. Casper's the commander, McMongle, Runco, Helms. Susan Helms is the one I was thinking of there. Susan Helms is in the picture here. So big Star Trek fans there. They're all decked out for their crew picture. The astronauts do a serious picture in their pumpkin suits. Then they'll do a picture. Photo day is quite a day for the crew because they bring their families in. They wear their military uniforms, or if a civilian, a suit or pretty dress, and then they do something fun and funny that might be appropriate to the missions. Okay, I know Andy Allen's mission was the tethered satellite. So they sprayed that string all over each other in the picture. So stuff like that. They have a lot of fun. They bond as a family. If they don't, then you're in trouble as a crew for sure, I think. So thinking about, what is it, STS-54 orbiting Earth today. All four of those missions, 72, 61C, 81, and 54, are all orbiting Earth in space history this time. Also 32 there. 81 was the fifth Mir space station docking, thus the V shape of that patch. All right. But we have a big happy birthday of one of the most popular astronauts out there, Shannon Lucid. Happy 84th birthday. No, 83rd. Don't push it, Mark, she says. Born January 14th, 1943 in Shanghai, China, to Baptist missionary parents. They settled in Bethany, Oklahoma, where she graduated high school in 1960. Her first flight was 51G, Discovery deploying 3 satellites in June 1985. So one of the true pioneers. There she is at her induction into the Astronaut Hall of Fame in 2014. Okay, and 10 years ago, 11 years ago. 5 times she's been to space. The only woman to live on the Russian Mir space station. There she was one of the original 6 astronauts chosen. She's on the far right there. And those of you don't know it, I'd love to do a trivia question on it. What is this that they're around? What are they standing around, Raj? Do you know what that is?
I don't know what that is.
That's the rescue ball.
Oh.
That is they actually would test your agility. That you got to get inside of that, and it has a handle on it, and you would have a little mask with oxygen on it that an astronaut, spacewalking astronaut, would then pick you up and carry you across from one shuttle to the other. Maybe that would have been the rescue device for Columbia. But you would get in it before, of course, you go outside into space. But yeah, that was a rescue ball concept, and I don't know where the heck that went. All right, but there's Rhea Seddon on the left. I knew I was going to mess up. Judy Resnick's in the middle. Anna Fisher's on the far left. No, Anna's on the far right. Of course, Kathy Sullivan and Sally Ride. Yeah, Sally Ride were the first women astronauts there. 188 days in space on the Mir space station made her the cover of Newsweek magazine. Heck, she was in her 50s then, okay. And that was her last mission to space. And so she has 233 days in space accumulated, I believe, 223. That stood as the American record for many years that Peggy Whitson has shattered, with about 375 accumulated days in space for Peggy Whitson, something like that. And she had an illustrious career as NASA chief scientist and lead Capcom for more than 16 shuttle missions. Retired in 2020. There she is in her Mir space station suit there, living up there with those Russians, eating borscht and all that stuff. I have never been into anything that she's been at. We would certainly love to have her at Shuttle Fest. So she'll find out about it and come knocking on the door. I'm convinced about that. And yes, sirree, she's a grandma just like many of you out there, okay, loving her grandchildren there at her home, probably in Oklahoma. She grew up in Oklahoma. She got all of her degrees at the University of Oklahoma in biochemistry. She's in the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. Okay, she was awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor, making her the 10th person and first woman to be given that honor in December 1966. Okay, so would love to meet Shannon Lucid, born this date 83 years ago. Hope you're having a big time with those kids there, your grandkids there, Shannon. Well, we want to talk about something that y'all space geeks are pretty smart out there. You know what's going on there. Let me look at. Let me go back here a second there before we get to the great designer. Somebody, RG Jubilee was asking, did the armadillo? It's not called Reuben. It's Rupert the armadillo of our friends at Sands Space History Museum. Rupert is their mascot, and we're going to have a mascot. Okay, stay tuned, aren't we, Raj? We're not going to tell them what it is yet, but I think it's been suggested a while, and Raj, you've taken the initiative with the artwork to put it over the edge, I think. But we're going to, Rupert the armadillo was taken up by Mike Fink, a.k.a. known as Spanky, and no, it was never showed in the cupola or anywhere. My director friend over there, Jamie Draper, thinks NASA doesn't want to start a parade of stuffed animals up in the cupola, but they do it for the 0G indicator, but they don't broadcast it. That's more of like an astronaut says they're taking this 0G indicator stuffed animal out there, and then they show it in a picture, but they don't make a formal NASA picture of it and so forth. So doggone it, we didn't get to see Rupert the armadillo in space, but hopefully there's some pictures of him up there, Rosalie. So when we see him, we'll let you know it on there. Yes, the rescue ball was part of astronaut training, said Mark Thel. I've seen a lot of astronauts, including Guy Bluford, all arms and legs in that thing in there. And it could have been part of the Columbia rescue if they'd ever tried to do anything about that. So, and we got Dave Stange watching, Robert Law. He's booked his flight on British Airways for Shuttle Fest. Thank you, Robert. There's Steve Jokums. He'll be in on the 26th. Okay. Looking forward to visiting the museum on the 26th, are you? Okay, I'm going to put that down. Make a note of that. And Steve Jokums, basement faucet emergency. Ooh, don't like hearing that from our cold weathered friends up there. Cliff is out of the hospital. Great, buddy. I saw a picture of you in the hospital. He's our friend in Pomona, Australia, who sat in this chair 4 times beside me. Love you, buddy. Keep fighting the good fight there, okay? He's battling prostate cancer. And glad that you're out of the hospital. And just love everybody that's around you, okay? Because we love you. All right, let's get to a little bit of space history about this man called the Great Designer of the Russian space program. It was on this date, January 14th, 1966, that Sergei Korolev died. All right. This was not even broadcast in TASS News, okay, Russian news, official news platform. Before his death, he was only identified as, quote, the Great Designer to protect him from possible assassination attempts by the United States in the moon race with Russia. Sergei Korolev was the designer. He was there, Werner von Braun, okay, on the rocket side. Though he is often compared to Werner von Braun as the leading architect of the Russian space race, he had to compete with his rivals. Vladimir Chelmier was one of the most advocates of a different task to go to the moon, and another one was named Mission, Vasily Mission, who succeeded Korolev, and he inherited what turned out to be the flawed N-1 rocket. Okay, the N-1 rocket was the Russian Saturn V. Okay, but this is the guy that kept everybody together. Okay, he was definitely the chief designer. Only following his death in 1966 was his identity revealed, and he received the appropriate public recognition as the driving force behind Soviet accomplishments in space exploration during the what they call the International Geophysical Year when they orbited Sputnik. Okay, he was behind all of this, and yet took very little credit for it. Earlier in his life, he fell on the wrong side of the Communist Party and was put up in Siberia in a prison. I forget what he did to do that, but Sergei Korolev, you cannot talk about the space race with Russia without talking about his name. Here he is with a dog, maybe one of the dogs they were training to put the second Sputnik in space with a dog, and that ended up being Laika there. Alec, let's see what he called his cosmonauts little eagles. Okay, and Alexei Leonov, who was the first human to walk in space, then was the commander of the Apollo-Soyuz test project. Soyuz, become best friends with Tom Stafford, would have been the first man on the moon, maybe. Alexei Leonov, who passed away about 3 years ago, said this about Korolev. Long before we met him, one man dominated much of our conversation in the early days of training, Sergei Korolev, the mastermind behind the Soviet space program. He was only referred to by the initials of his first 2 names, SP, or the mysterious title of Chief Designer or simply Chief. For those on the space program, there was no authority higher. Korolev had the reputation of being a man of highest integrity, but also of being extremely demanding. Everyone around him was on tenterhooks, afraid of making a wrong move and invoking his wrath. He was treated like a god. How did he die, you say, at age 59 on this date in 1966? Routine colon surgery. Okay. And I wonder what they did to those surgeons, all right? But he had a botched surgery and died during it for colon surgery. And part of this, of him not being healthy enough for this, was his body was he was tortured and beaten in the gulags of Siberia. And I forget exactly what that was about, but history books will tell us about that. So there you have one of the greatest minds of the space program. There's Sergei Korolev there with Yuri Gagarin, who he called his little eagles, okay, orbiting the Earth. And in 1966, he died. That was in the middle of their moon rocket N1 with 33 engines. Looks a lot like the SpaceX big booster that puts the Starship up in or semi-orbit on its missions. What would have happened if he'd have lived? Okay, would Russia beat us to the moon? There was a lot of infighting at the time, even among his rivals, of what was the best approach. They were going to go in a one vehicle with two astronauts in a Lunokhod Soyuz spacecraft orbiting the moon with one cosmonaut. Leonov was going to get in the lander that was about the size of a phone booth, maybe, if you remember what those are, and land on the moon by himself. 2-hour orbit around the moon. He would be ready to lift off on that first orbit with who knows, 10, 15, 20 pounds that he could accumulate, take a few snapshots, get in there, and beat us to the moon. But once Apollo 8 happened, and we orbited the moon in December 1968, game was over. The Russians gave up, threw in the towel, because they knew that they were too far behind, and we were right on track to do it. So Sergei Korolev, the great designer, always remembered for his contributions to the Russian space program, and died at age 59 on this date in space history in 1966. And there's craters on the moon, and this is a crater on Mars. And if you've never seen this image before, and I've seen it, this was taken about 10 years ago by the European Space Agency, close to the North Pole of Mars. That is a crater called Korolev, which has got frost on it and a frozen lake. Yes, a frozen lake. I think it's carbon dioxide, but still, it would have water in there, maybe on the bottom. This should be the poster child of Mars to go back to Mars. Have you ever seen this photo before, Raj?
Not this clear.
Well, there it is, and a good reason to go to Mars over and over. Why haven't we sent a probe to land next to this thing and siphon off some of that and see what we could do with it there? But that's the crater Korolev on Mars. I think it's about 15 miles in diameter, a pretty big crater there. All right, I thought it'd be fun to have some pictures racked up since we talk about the shuttles of the month, that we look real quickly at some of the landing of some shuttles. Since we got the shuttles talking about here, 10 beautiful ones. Look at that. Could you imagine being in that press corps? And this picture I haven't seen in a while. And I wonder, that's pretty dangerous, though. It's way down at the end where the shuttle is about to wheel stop, I think. But there you've got the photographers all lined up there, 2, 4, 6, 8 of them there. Maybe even a remote camera or two. I see a tripod to the right, so there's other photographers around there. And there's an orbiter landing, and look at the big VAB in the background. And I love this picture. The shuttle's coming in at over 200 miles an hour, slows down to about 175 with the air brakes, and then they throw the chute out when the wheels come down. But the wheels come down the last 5 seconds of this, and the pilot's the one that hits the button to spring the doors open to land the wheels. And 133 times, everything worked out just fine. Of course, Challenger and the last Columbia mission never got a chance to get wheels down. But look at the patina on that orbiter there. I'm trying to figure out if that's Columbia or not. No, it's not, because it doesn't have a pod up on top of wing. And what you don't realize that I remember watching on CNN and the 24-hour news channels when these would happen is you don't see the invisible gases and stuff going around, and you don't see hear the APUs exhaust coming out of it, and at night you see a flame coming out actually above the tail there. So the things I find around here, I'll tell you, but this is the location of fluid and gas tanks on the shuttle. Look at all of those tanks, okay? Now, some of those round tanks were recovered. A lot of these tanks were recovered from Colombia in the swamps of Louisiana. And then these are all the gases coming out of a parked, just landed space shuttle orbiter. You've got the liquid hydrogen relief valve is venting, okay? You've got the flash evaporation vent. You got umbilicals that are connected right away. But this is a volatile breathing and living machine for hours after it lands. And all of this crew here, the hazmat crews and so forth, everything is done, of course, in a pre-planned and very organized fashion. And that's Challenger there on the runway with the door open to get the crew out of there. You see the hatch has not opened yet on the door there. They give the astronauts as much time as they need to get their sea legs back, their gravity legs back. Some it's very easy and others it's not. On John Glenn's famous landing of STS-95 at age 77, took him about an hour to get right. And we know people that were on the scene there, and he had drank too much water. There's an amount of water that they want to intake. He drank too much, and he was vomiting the water and didn't feel right, and he wasn't going to go out in front of the press as the oldest human still to orbit the Earth, the great John Glenn. So it's up to everybody, and then you see him go out and take those pictures on there. There's some more danger areas that are delineated on there. Wasn't there fire from the APUs after one of the shuttle landings? There is fire always going on, breathing out of there. You don't see it in the vacuum of space, of course, but at night, when you see these night landings, you can hear it, boom, 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 as it's working out. And yes, I saw that fire, Dave, myself, and I'm going like, oh, there's fire there. How come nobody's, anxious about that? Because that's the way the shuttle operated. Again, hooked up there, ready to be towed into the vehicle assembly building. And again, the danger areas that you have to be. So, you don't see what could kill you there in this picture. And so you got to be very careful, and NASA knows what they're doing. All right. And this is the walk back of Atlantis, the famous walking of it back after its final landing in late July 2011. 10 beautiful shuttles of the month of January. And we've got a few more to talk about. And we'll be talking the last week of January about the lives of the Columbia and Challenger astronauts. We don't dive into, except by some experts. And I'm going to have Gary Allgaier talk about, I think he's going to talk about one of them or both of them on the 26th, Monday of January. All right, let's go out here with a little backyard astronomy, okay? And from Stargazer Mark. And the moon today, Raj, is 26 days old. To talk like an amateur astronomer is to say, hey, how many days old is the moon? And then I'll tell you if it's a good evening tonight to go stargazing. So 26-day-old moon is an excellent time to go stargazing because the 14-day-old moon is full phase. Everything to the right of 14 is in the evening sky. The moon is already in the evening sky. Okay. After the 14th, it rises after sunset. Okay. And each night it rises 50 minutes later after it rose before. which is the distance of your fist clenched at arm's length over 10 degrees. Okay, 12 and a half degrees it moves to the left every day. In fact, the moon moves its own diameter every hour to the left, a half a degree. Okay. So when you get 17-day-old moon, you can say, hey, the moon's not going to be rising till, 8, 9 o'clock. Okay. So I could stargaze a little bit since it's getting dark now. It's 7:38. So the moon is going to be a fingernail in the morning sky. Okay. And those of you morning people will love seeing that when you're taking your dog out, running, jogging, biking around to get your exercise before work or breakfast. And something you are missing in the morning sky that you may have noticed is the bright star Venus. Venus is now at what we call inferior conjunction right next to the sun in our daytime sky. And it's going to pop up to the left of the sun and become visible in our evening sky. Here in the next week or so, you'll start seeing Venus popping up, and it will be blazing bright as the brightest object in the sky of the west until probably March, I think. But in the east is a super bright star. In fact, I looked over at 6:30 last night as I was driving to Melbourne to go see Winston Scott in the jazz club over there, Italian American club. And I could tell at 6:30, I could see in the twilight, I could see Jupiter blazing to the east, high enough above all the horizon that you're going to see it very easily. Also next to Jupiter are two stars, upper left of it. Those are Castor and Pollux, the brothers of Gemini, that are like holding each other's hands as their feet go off to the right, and their heads are the two bright stars there left of Jupiter. So Jupiter's in Gemini, the twins. It's going to be a fixture until spring, and as it gets higher overhead, a lot of people don't crane up head to see it, but it is only Venus, the moon, and the sun are brighter than Jupiter. And one of my buddies, Johnny Horn, a backyard astronomer, and he takes this picture here. That is the famous red spot. You see these cloud layer. We're looking at the cloud tops of Jupiter. We call these features festoons, the kind of wavy features on there. There's ovals, festoons, and the red spot is basically a hurricane that has been raging for over 300 years. And it has gotten lighter, almost disappeared a few times. It has shrunk maybe a little bit in size, but it is still 3 Earth diameters across. And I see two sort of bright stars, one left and one right. Those are the moons of Jupiter that you can see. There's 3 moons there. Jeffrey Minnick of the astronomy club that I belong to, and also a new docent, took this picture showing the red spot. 3 of the 4 Galilean moons that are visible. The other one is either way far off or it's right behind. But look, the moons also have a round spherical appearance. They're not points of light. And even in the backyard telescope, and this might be 200 power, okay, that looks good there. And here is a phenomenon that we watch a lot, is this moon on the right, its shadow is being cast on the cloud tops of Jupiter. And there's another moon further right that has got a bigger shadow cast on there. So hope you get out and get a little moon shine, from the planets out there. Here is, we didn't get that one picture. Okay. Yeah, it skipped one, didn't it? But that's okay. I had a picture of the moons as shown by the Galileo spacecraft, but they are worlds of their own. One of them, Io, has 200 volcanoes erupting on it. It's the closest moon to Jupiter and tortured by the gravity. Okay. Jupiter is 88,000 miles across. The Earth is 8,000 miles across. All right. So over 10, 11 Earths can span across there, and the volume of it is everything in the solar system can fit inside of Jupiter, including Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Mars, all of them. All their moons can fit inside this gigantic, that is 1/10 the size of our sun. It almost became another binary star of our sun, but it didn't have enough mass. It wasn't big enough. And our sun is actually a dwarf star. All right, there's a lot of 90% of the stars that you see in the sky are bigger than our sun. Let me put it that way. It's unusual that it is a relatively small sun compared to others, only 10 times bigger than Jupiter. So Jupiter attracts a lot of stray comets, meteors that are coming in. It's the solar system's defender. It's taken some hits for us over the years. So, of course, we'll be talking more about Jupiter ad nauseum, I hope, to entertain all of you all in there. Chris Callie, I see you're watching today. You don't get tired of me talking about Jupiter, do you? When you see that Jupiter looks like this, like a Van Gogh painting, something that Chris Callie would create on his paint board, okay? Although he'd have a lot more blue in there, okay, because he's a Michigan graduate, so they got a lot of blue in their colors. So, but this is more reds with the Ohio State theme, right, guys? Anyway, it just looks like an unbelievable scene there. You can't, and I say over and over, science fact is stranger than science fiction all the time. So let's go out with, if you could see a few of the animals that are out there in the sky tonight. This is a stellarium overlay of the sky at about 10 o'clock tonight, okay? And you've got Aldebaran, and I'm looking for Taurus the Bull up above up here. Okay, so where's there's Castor and Pollux over here. This does not show Jupiter. Jupiter would be right in here, okay, on this, in that area there. But there's Orion in the center with Betelgeuse and Rigel, his two dogs, Sirius and Procyon, okay. Monoceros is the horse. It's actually a unicorn between the two dogs called Monoceros. I love telling kids that, hey, there's a unicorn up in the sky. He's at the feet of Orion. Castor and Pollux and Gemini, there you see the twins. Capella is an interesting bright star in the constellation Auriga, the charioteer. I've never heard of a person named Auriga, but that was this guy's name. And I say he invented the wheel. That's why he's up in space, okay, up in the constellations. And up by Aldebaran is actually Mars shown there in this old slide. And you just see a little cluster at the very top. That's the Pleiades star cluster that we talked about the other day as a well-known object in the sky that has lots of mist around it. So thank you all for watching today. And thank you, our sponsor, Hyatt Place, where many of you stayed there before. We're glad that Robert Law going to be here. So we'll have to book you on here, Robert. This is going to be difficult because I'm going to be, the week you're here, I'm going to be in Orlando most of it. So we'll just have to work some stuff out here. Dave Stangy's watching, of course. Doug Forrest in Los Angeles, outside of Pasadena there. Dean Babcock, thank you for watching. He's up in Illinois. Ophelia Sauterelle in France. Man Space, and of course that's Mitch Rothman. Mitch is not sure where Mitch is now. I think he's in Colorado. He splits his time between Colorado and Central Florida. Rosalie, thank you for your participation today, mostly parked. And Gary Gerald, always good to see Gary. And Mark Thel, met him at Shuttlefest. You'll all meet Gary at Shuttlefest. Can't wait for him to come. Tommy Usiak, good to hear you watching today. And Cliff Watson, Carlton Bailey, hope you're feeling better. Lake County Spaceport with Steve Jokums. And Chris Calley under the disguise of his wife there, Jacqueline. So, and they got the Go Blue stuff going on there. So it's time for me to run out. As you see, go red. The red spot's red, not blue. Turn blue, Goulardi used to say. If you know who Goulardi is, then you grew up in the Cleveland area, okay, or Ohio. Goulardi was the shock jock for science fiction, like Sven Gulli is now out of Chicago on MeTV. So turn blue, you guys. But thank you all for watching today's program. Yes, Jupiter is the most beautiful planet in the solar system, except for Earth, okay? Earth is number one for sure, and any aliens would be immediately attracted to our resources. And I think, they would just take us over, really. That's the great Stephen Hawking said, be careful what you ask for when you want to meet aliens, because he thinks they would be hostile. And look at the history of the world. When humans, earthlings, have met each other, we immediately want to take over what they got. So Stephen Hawking, great physicist, died a few years ago, has a point there. So thank you all for watching today. We're going to try to effort a movie, a past interview with Francois Bourgeois, I think is his name. He's a big influencer in the UK, and he toured me around the museum, and they're doing a piece about this tour. And good Lord, we did it almost 6 months ago. But they were waiting at the right time to release it. So it's going to be a big deal on one of the big channels, and we'll let you know all about that. All right. So hopefully we'll have that interview with Francois tomorrow, and then I'll be back live on Friday with Julia Barney of the Astronaut Memorial Foundation. That is the folks that bring us the mirror that we honor our astronauts on out at Kennedy Space Center. So until then, thank you, Raj, for a great job here. We'll hope to see you all in our museum or on our program tomorrow. Okay? Until then, I'm Mark Marquette saying I can't wait to see all of you in our museum at some time so we can bridge the space